It's time to ditch the excuses. Get up, get out, and shut the f*** up. This is the Adjusting to Six Figures podcast.
Hey everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Adjustercast podcast. This is a podcast, a part of the Adjusting to Six Figures podcast, but this is a podcast just for the members here at the Claims Adjusters Success Network Facebook group. And this is a podcast that's all about claims adjusting. If you know me, then you know that I'm a freelance insurance adjuster, and I like to do podcasts. And occasionally I like to do podcasts just about claims, and that's one of these. So today we're joined by a pretty awesome guest. I recently jumped in the group and decided that I was tired of doing these podcasts all by myself. And we have a member in today, a man by the name of Blaine Smith, who is an Xactimate pro. What's going on, Blaine? How you doing today?
Pretty good, man. How are you?
Hey, doing good. I was excited to get you on here, man, because I know I've seen your name kicked around for a little while, particularly in the Xactimate scene. You've been training this software Xactimate for a while now, right?
Yeah. I've been doing a lot of our company training for, I guess, about 5 years now.
Yeah.
Pretty solid. So,
what kind of company are you working for? It's not an insurance company.
No, it's an adjusting firm.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I do a lot of our scheduled classes to not really certify for different clients. So not necessarily just the Xactimate portion, kind of the putting it all together. But Xactimate's definitely the biggest part of it. It's the part I like to focus on the most.
Yeah. Well, you have talked about it before, man. Xactimate, in terms of claims adjusting, I think knowledge-wise, Xactimate is one of the best things that you could figure out, because if you figure out Xactimate and you decide that you don't want to be a claims adjuster anymore, you don't have to let that knowledge go to waste. There's still other ways you could utilize that knowledge outside of the insurance industry.
Yeah. I actually, an exercise I usually do in my class, because a lot of people, whenever they come, they ask about being deployed, or, because it's not a if they're going to, it's just a when. And people don't like kind of sitting around waiting, and I tell them don't. And I usually up on one of the screens, I'll go to Indeed, just Indeed.com. I'll ask, I'll just tell one of the students, hey, give me a city, give me one of a major city that you live close to. And we'll type it in there live in class, and we'll go through, and we'll just use Xactimate as a keyword. And we'll go through, and, over half of the jobs with Xactimate aren't insurance adjusting per se. They're obviously related to the field, but project managers, roofing companies.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of companies are using them. I did the same thing. I remember back when I started, and I didn't know that many adjusting companies. That was one thing I did. I just searched for Xactimate. Who needed me? And I remember, as this little side note, I remember early on, this was probably like within the first year that I was doing property claims, I went and met up with a quote-unquote construction company to be an Xactimate writer for them. And it was these two Russian guys, and they were in a rented house. Like, it was obviously not their house that I was in. And it was just me and them. And it was the weirdest thing, because they were drinking beer and grilling sausages. And, I love sausage. So I just sat there, and they were telling me about all the money I was going to make. I'm less than a year into this, so I was just believing them. I was going to somehow get into the Russian mob after that. This
sounds really Chicago-y.
It was.
This episode of the Adjusting to Six Figures podcast has been brought to you by Adjuster University. If you've ever been in a car accident or a major medical procedure, then you've probably encountered a claims adjuster before, but probably never thought much of it. I know I didn't, until I found out that there was a little bit more to the job of a claims adjuster than what met my eye. Now, while there's claims adjusters that are salaried by the insurance carriers, those insurance carriers are also supported by a team of freelancers. These freelancers act as independent contractors that help the insurance carrier facilitate their claims to keep their customers happy. These freelancers are called independent adjusters. Independent adjusters don't work for the insurance carriers, they work for themselves. That means they get to set their own schedule and decide what type of work they want to do. Best of all, independent adjusters, especially the ones that are interested in traveling across the country, can earn over $250,000 a year as an independent insurance adjuster. This is not network marketing. This is not an affiliate program. There's no pyramid involved. This is just a super niche industry that few people actually know about. And this is not a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a get-rich over a long period of time combined with hard work and commitment. If you're looking for some easy way to make 6 figures a year or even over $250,000 a year without having to do much work or put in much effort, then this definitely isn't for you. But if you feel like you're a hard worker and you can get started running your own small business as an independent insurance adjuster, then this is the program for you. If this sounds like something that you're ready to commit to or even just learn a little bit more about, then head over to adjuster-university.com/get started to sign up to our next introductory class. Once again, that is adjuster-university.com/get started and sign up to a free introductory class so that you can learn more about this niche industry called independent insurance adjusting.
Anyway, guys, so like this podcast, so knowing that I was getting Blaine on here, Blaine, I grabbed a bunch of struggles, when you're a member of the Claims Adjuster Success Network. If you're listening now and you're not a member and you're a claims adjuster, go over there, go sign up. But one of the questions that we ask when you first sign up is what's one thing that's your biggest struggle? And a lot of people put in there, obviously, Xactimate. I mean, it's a pretty complicated, complex piece of software you got to figure out, and it's a big money maker. Ultimately, the slower you are at Xactimate, the slower you're going to get paid. So a lot of people put Xactimate in. What I'll tell you now is a lot of people just put Xactimate. That's literally the one word that they put in there is just Xactimate. Nothing in particular, just Xactimate, the whole thing. So if you put that in there, hopefully this podcast puts you at ease a little bit. If not, leave the group, join back in, and try to be a little bit more specific. But anyway, all right, so this first one, and we want to apologize to Tanisha, because Blaine and I were joking a little bit about this right before. So Tanisha asked, knowing what line items to use in Xactimate. Now, we laughed at that because it's a very broad, but also it's broad, it's vague, it's a loaded question to ask anybody. So James, I'll throw a spotlight on you, Blaine. I'll throw the spotlight on you right here, man. What do you think?
What I usually try to get people a focus on doing is usually just briefly. When people come into the class, I always kind of touch like, here's what we're going to do. We're going to work on sketching. We're going to sketch roofs, and we're going to write up the estimate. And usually when I say sketching roofs, that's usually like a collective anxiety noise from everybody. And I tell everybody, sketching is going to be the easiest part of this entire thing. The hardest part is finding line items. And the only thing I just tell everybody, it's kind of like a language. And you just have to learn what words are at your disposal. So there's not a whole lot of things you could do other than poke around in the different line item categories and selector codes. And I think where the root of the question is as far as which ones to use when, you have to know what they mean first. We get a lot of people that when they first start out, maybe they've come over. Now, I was teaching and helping out. I wasn't necessarily the role of teaching, but people when they were coming over from MSB and IntegraClaim, where you had to put in every single component. And then you could tell the people had just moved from that back in 09 or whatever it was, because they would write a line item like the privacy 5 to 6 foot privacy fence, and then they would have Xactimate as the next line item, and they would have a 4x4 post or whatever as the next item, and they would have all this stuff, and it just came from they weren't reading the detail in the line item. You have to familiarize yourself with that. And most of the time, as far as which ones to use when, I'm a real big proponent of, hey, if you have an access to Xactimate, and I know that's going to be a question we'll talk about later, so I'll kind of hold off with that. But you really just kind of poke around, learn the category codes. The category codes are things you can. A lot of people also show up to the class and they have like the Xactimate cheat sheet. I don't know if you've probably seen the one that Xactimate puts out, and
I might have.
Yeah, I'm sure. And I always think it's kind of funny because it's a cheat sheet, but it's got like 200 codes on it.
Yeah.
Not really. That's like somebody teaching somebody English to go, here's the most commonly used words, and you just give them a dictionary.
Right, right.
You can't do that, but you can start learning to the category codes. When I'm teaching class, I tell everybody, you don't have to be a contractor. Everybody in here has been to Home Depot. So if you go into Home Depot and you don't know what you're looking for, okay, it's some kind of part to a toilet or whatever. Okay, I know I can at least by myself get to the plumbing aisle. I know that much. I don't got to be a contractor to know it's got to be down the plumbing aisle. That I tell people to liken that to the category code. So find the category first. From there, the selector codes, those are like your shelves. So now I'm on the right aisle. Now I just got to find the right item. And then once I kind of look through there and filter through and use the search feature inside the selector code section, once I find a line item, if I've never used a line item before, anybody that's been to any of my classes, this is in their head. If I've never used a line item before, the first thing I'm going to do is read it. I'm going to click for detail and read it. And a lot of times, as far as knowing what to use when, if you have line item codes that are common, like for instance, carpet's a good one. If you use carpet, like FCCAV, so you're using carpet, if you click on it, it will tell you, hey, this excludes any kind of transition strip. And then it tells you the code. It gives it to you. It says, use this if that's what it is. Windows, a lot of the newer adjusters, typically they will underwrite Windows fairly heavily because they don't know what to use when because they don't read it. And they just put in a standard grade builder window where it's actually, maybe it's low E and it's got a grid and they have to retrofit it because it's into an existing opening. If you read in the line item, in the notes and the details in the line item, it will tell you a lot of times, you have to use this if this is what you mean. And so as far as just poking around though, that's just something you got to do. The thing you could do externally is learn the category codes. If you can learn those, you can at least figure out what aisle you can go down.
Right. I think you brought up a really great point there because in my opinion, this question is very loaded because when I read it, sometimes I'll overthink things, right? So when I read this, I can't help but think, all right, well, are you asking what line items to use because you're looking at property damage and you just don't understand what line items are there in order to fix that, as if there's some sort of a lack of knowledge in terms of just how to make the repair? Because to properly know what line items to use, you have to first understand the repair process. Because without knowing the repair process, then just like your point, which I totally agree with, if you don't understand the repair process, then the descriptions that come with each of those line items, they're basically Latin. You don't know if what it includes is enough to cover what is actually needed to make the repair or not. So you need to understand the repair process first. And if you don't understand the repair process, thank God for Google and YouTube, because you can figure it out pretty easily. I've said this before, just act like it was your house and you can't afford somebody to fix it, and you're going to do that shit yourself. Look it up. Odds are somebody else had the same spot on their ceiling. Odds are someone else had to go through tile, and they got a YouTube that they want you to subscribe to. Just go check it out, pay attention, and then that brings to a very good point that I wasn't thinking about, and about the window. Another excellent point is that you need to be able to identify materials, which is a tough one. Even if you start to understand that, I mean, to be able to identify a grade of a window, is a low, all those things. That's going to be tougher, especially with, I know a lot of people struggle with identifying wood flooring early on. Is that engineered? Is that pre-finished? Is that, oak, whatever? It's tough to identify that stuff with. So that is going to be a struggle. That to me is a bigger struggle than just the description part, because that's just reading. Right? That's just taking the time and saying, listen, I don't really exactly know what this is. I'm going to read the description, and just like you said, what does it include? What does it exclude? And
right. And I think that yeah, you're right. My answer was more in the confines. You're correct. I did not think about that. You also have to know what you're looking at first. A resource that I give my students, and I guess it's fine. Nobody's said anything in 5 years. So if we flood their website, they're like, hey, wait a second. I'm going to say this wrong. It's either NACI or NACHI. It's
the inspection. Yeah, the inspection people. Yeah.
Yeah, the National Association of Certified Home Inspectors, I think.
Is that it?
Yeah, it's NACI.org. And you can Google that, and they have a inspection mastery thing that they got 5,000 modules or something like that.
Yeah.
You can go and look at. It's kind of inundation. It's analysis paralysis a bit, but if you're
it's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. But I mean, if you're unfamiliar with construction, it definitely is going to help.
I had a membership to that way back when.
Yeah, you used to have a membership. That's why I said nobody said anything yet, because you used to have a membership, and now seemingly everything's free. I don't know if they had a paywall that went down by accident. They'll know about it.
Well, I think they can get you certified too. I think, right? So maybe that's the pay. I'm not sure. Yeah. So Tanisha, I hope we flooded you with answers right there. So we're gonna move on. Joshua came in. Joshua asked a question: how to learn Xactimate without paying for training? Quit being cheap, Josh.
Without paying for training,
I guess, yeah.
Some people could do it. There's a lot of people that when a lot of the major carriers first went over, kind of had to. It's just not as structured. I think I taught golf lessons for a while, and you can do it without training. It's not a big deal. But what would wind up happening is kind of like with people when if they're self-taught and then they come get lessons, it's a lot harder because you have to unlearn things, and unlearning something is really hard to do. So I would just say what I tell a lot of my students is whenever you are YouTubing stuff about Xactimate, maybe don't pay attention to what they're doing per se, but more how they're doing it. Pay attention to okay, well, this person, this video is really geared toward roofing contractor supplementing insurance claims. And, so you watch the video and they say, you always do this. It's like, well, you might not always do that. Maybe they always do that. So don't necessarily pay attention to that. But when they sketch something, if they do it in a certain way that you're unfamiliar with, pay attention to the buttons they click and how they get there. So I would tell you to pay attention to more of the technical stuff as opposed to some of the narratives that they put out there, because there's nothing that's always, there's nothing that's never. But you can. I would tell you go get training. I make nothing off of the training that we do at the company. It's just we have CEs. So there's a lot of companies out there that charge I know there's a bunch of money that they charge sometimes, but
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
It's worth having if you're wanting to do this then you want to have somebody help guide you through at least the first part of it.
Right. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you on that. I mean, listen, I'm in my, I sell training, but I'll be the first to admit, I pretty much didn't pay for any training when I started out. Before I got a crack at any estimate writing using Xactimate, I think like 6 months before, I took a online training thing for like a 3-day course and learned how to use a square break and how to like create an estimate. And 6 months later, I had no fucking clue what I was doing.
Here's the thing. You're going to pay for it. You're going to pay for it by way of you're slower than everybody else, so you don't close as many. And you're stuck in your hotel. So I paid for it. I just didn't go to a class.
Right. You're going to pay, and that's 100% right. No matter what, you are going to pay for it one way or another. You're either going to pay for it up front with money out of your pocket, or you're going to pay for it later with money that never made its way into your pocket. One or the other. And hey, if I don't know what it's like, if you're listening, Josh, I don't know what it's like for you when you're at the grocery store and you're checking out. I don't know what that experience is like for you. Maybe you don't have that money at all and you don't have a choice. If you don't have a choice, man, fake it till you make it. That's it. Sell somebody, sell whoever you're pitching yourself to, sell them. If you can't sell them on your actual skill in Xactimate, sell them on you and your will and your passion to get the job done. That's all you can do, and freaking YouTube the shit out of it. And that being said, never forget that you will get what you pay for. There's some great stuff on YouTube. Alina Wilson does a lot on YouTube. There's, we've got stuff that's on YouTube. But the best thing you could possibly do, Josh, is possibly look into going to a sperm bank, doing whatever you got to do. Just put some money aside and get some training, because like I said earlier, the quicker you are at Xactimate and the better you are at Xactimate is going to determine how much money you make. And do you want to make a lot of money in a couple years, or do you want to make money today? Because the quicker you can bridge that gap from not really knowing, having to look up all those descriptions, figure everything out, and messing around in Sketch, and you don't really know what you're doing. Things aren't lining up, so you're putzing around a little bit more. The quicker you can get to the point where you're just throwing things in there and throwing line items in, done, send it up, and on to the next one, the more money you're going to make. And usually, and I say this too, like, even if you spend $1,000 on training, that's like 2-3 claims right there. Yeah. So, people forget that.
Yep.
Anyway, we're going to jump on this one. Curious to hear, Blaine, what you have to say on this one, because I flip-flop on my answer here. But Kenneth came in and asked, is it worth learning Symbility first?
Just a yes or no? No. I would say no. Yeah.
I have to agree.
Only because a lot of the firms... First off, the carrier is the person that picks the 99% of the time. The carrier is the person that picks the estimating standards. So to say that, there's not a lot of carriers out there that use Symbility. The carriers that do use Symbility, it seems most of them are with smaller IA firms. With smaller IA firms, you're not going to get resources as far as support goes because they just can't pay for them. Or, I mean, they can't pay for them, but they're not large enough. So because of that, typically the rosters of people that they try to have is a little bit more picky and choosy. And they try to go with people that have been in the industry a little bit longer because they're just going to turn them over and say, hey, it's up to you to figure out all this stuff. So because of that, I feel like even as gearing it towards people that are first starting out, even if you learned how to use Symbility first and you marketed that skill and somebody were to pick you up, it is probably, there's a high likelihood that you're not going to be in a situation starting out that you're going to have all the things you need to be successful.
Right.
So I think you could almost screw yourself over by learning Symbility and then get hired on by one of those other ones, and then you're blacklisted because you didn't turn in your stuff or whatever, and it's just because you weren't set up to succeed to begin with. So I would kind of steer away from it. Plus, at the end of the day, once you learn Xactimate, Symbility is just tweaking everything down. In my
Right.
It's just tweaking everything down a little bit. So once you learn Xactimate, it's that much easier to learn Symbility. If you learn Symbility as a marketable skill, then you're only going to be put in places where people are going to more than likely already assume you kind of know what you're doing. So
Right. And I always think of it like this too. Where's the question stem from, right? Somebody wants to know if they should learn Symbility first. So they're saying first. They said first.
Right.
So that to me says you haven't learned Xactimate yet. And if you haven't learned Xactimate yet, then you haven't worked as an adjuster. I'm going to assume that this person was going to be an adjuster. So you haven't done anything. You're at the beginning stages. So if you're at the beginning stages, in order that Xactimate has such a grip. They have such a large market share of the insurance industry, right? So one thing a new person is going to struggle with, even if you take my freaking courses, the one struggle you are going to inherently have is marketing yourself, getting out there to enough companies. To think up front that you're going to market yourself so well that you're going to just automatically, luckily, get exposure to that small segment of companies that actually need a Symbility adjuster. I mean, it's a stretch. You're completely glossing over, you're completely bypassing all of the other companies, the predominant market share of Xactimate actual users. Is it great to know? Yeah. I mean, it's going to give you a competitive advantage. Absolutely. Because then if a company has a client that accepts Symbility, right? And they have a smaller number of adjusters that are willing to use that are capable of using that software, then the possibility of getting work when you don't have that much work coming in is greater. But to specifically answer, and I think you're with me on this, Blaine, to specifically answer that question, I think the answer we agree is no. Learn Xactimate first, and then learn Symbility maybe shortly thereafter as you learn. But Xactimate should be the priority. Would you agree? All right. There you go, Josh. Chew on. Oh, I'm sorry. That was Kenneth. Thanks, Kenneth. Chew on that for a bit. All right, Angelica, I noticed this. I started going this direction with what Angelica wrote in. Angelica said she was wondering about other ways to make money after you know Xactimate.
Oh yeah. Like I said, I mean the Indeed, you could just search. There's
That's true. Yeah.
A ton of stuff.
Restoration companies, roofing.
Yeah. Well, and I'm sure too that I also run claims. I'm sure you have dealt with contractors that we get a supplement. We get a supplement in. So I call the contractor. I have the opportunity sometimes to be team leads for inside, outside, and that kind of stuff. So we'll have a hot claim, and it's a supplement. And so I'll call the contractor, and I'll talk to him, and I'll tell him, hey, look, by the way, before I gave you a call, I'm going through this estimate that you sent in for the supplement. And a lot of times they don't even know what they sent in because they don't do it. They have, some guy, or gal, whoever, seemingly, now this is just my little jab, but, in their parents' basement, in their little troll cave, and all they're doing all day is just, they're al dente adjusting. They're just like writing up a whole bunch of stuff.
Al dente adjusting. I love it.
And if it sticks, I got offered a job early on in my career from a restoration, from a roofing company in the DFW area. And, basically I was just going to sit at the house. This is way before COVID. And he was like, hey, you could sit at the house and just email stuff and, just write up Xactimate, because a lot of the roofing contractors don't know how to use Xactimate.
Right.
And they just do it because the insurance industry asked them to do it. So they just pay a person a percentage, and then you get, I was going to have like, I think the job offer was like a base salary plus, 10% of whatever was approved for the supplement.
Right.
So, they didn't even want to turn on their computer. They were just out running their job, running the business. And then I was to do the other side. I didn't take it, but that happens all the time.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's a big one. I especially remember for a short little stint, I was doing desk claims. And man, I was constantly coming across these different supplemental companies. Yeah, it's just for those who don't, just to kind of hammer in a little bit more. And what this is just, the roofing contractors, let's say you got a hailstorm, right? It's good money because let's say you got a hailstorm hits, right? You got a roofing contractor that goes out there. You as an Xactimate professional, you solicit yourself to that roofer and you say, hey, listen, I'll handle your supplements, make sure that you're landing jobs, there was a hailstorm in the area, you're getting the insurance paperwork. I'll make sure that you're getting fair, dollar amount for that work, right? Then they receive the estimate, and then you as the Xactimate writer go back and forth, with the insurance company, just trying to, make it fair, right? Just make it as fair as possible for everybody. And you collect a percentage off that. There's that's it. I don't know if we could throw appraisals in there. I guess you could throw appraisals in there too.
Yeah, I mean,
you should know it.
Yeah, I should say probably by the time you are doing that, you probably already kind of know what's
That's
up.
true. Yeah. If you're doing appraisals and you don't know how else to make money doing Xactimate, you gotta rethink your timeline.
Yeah. So, but I mean, there's a lot of roofing. Most of your contractors don't know how to use Xactimate. They rely on somebody else to do that particular portion of it. So, I would say that would be a really good spot.
And you know what I don't know about you, but I feel like, and I've pitched to contractors in the past, they're very easy sales to get. Because none of them like writing up estimates. So if you tell them that you'll write their estimates for them, and if they get insurance work, that you can act as that liaison for them too.
Oh, absolutely.
That's you could probably lock everybody in your town. So, but I would say best answer here is probably what you said. You want to know different ways you can make money running Xactimate? Go jump on Indeed and see what's up there, because there's going to be your answer. All right, so we got one. I got one more. We got one last one. Then we're going to wrap this bad boy up. Who said this? Fazio. Oh, I wrote some extra notes on this. How to get faster using Xactimate. And I posed it as number one tip to getting faster at Xactimate.
Type in the line items. Type in the category. Type in the selector code.
Dang, you're going that far. All right.
When you find a line item that you need to use, X out of the search window. Now, the search window I keep referring to is the one in the quick entry. That's the only one I use. And I know when you're first starting out, I would tell everybody tries to treat the search window on the top of the screen in the estimate items window. Everybody tries to use that like a Google. It's not a Google. I always tell everybody it's more like an Ask Jeeves. It's like
That's a very good point.
It's just a filter. So I would tell you, go down there and do the category and the selector code, type it in there, find your category. If you're doing something like for roofing, when you can click on the little triangle there, or hit spacebar, however it pulls up the list of the categories. Once you know, okay, I know I need to go down the roofing aisle. So once you see that code that says RFG, X out of it, X out of the window, and type in RFG. Open up the selector code view. Find whatever line item you're looking for there. If it's a 3-tab shingle, so now there's only 240. So you look and see the code 240. X out and type in 240.
Right.
You make yourself do that. Any adjuster that makes money doing this for a long time is whenever they get to the estimate portion, the estimate item portion of the Xactimate. So they've sketched everything, they've done whatever else they need to do to get to that point. Once they start writing up the line items, it should just sound like you're typing.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
a lot of the adjusters that I have that all kind of pair them up with new people, they'll sit there and they'll talk the entire time sitting right next to the person doing their own work until it gets to that part, and that's usually when you see them, you know, tell everybody like, all right, hold on real quick, and they put in their headphones, and then they're just sitting there typing up a report. You can't get there by always searching and then clicking and then searching and then clicking and then doing that kind of stuff. So that's what I say. That's my biggest thing. Yeah, that's my biggest thing in my class. I joke with people where I'll come over there and like slap their hand if they're just searching type the thing in. It's going to be slower at first. You're going to be slower at first, but then you're going to look up and you're going to be faster than anybody that clicks and does the whatever.
So all right. So this is interesting. This is really interesting. So I'm actually the opposite. I
Really?
can't. And I always have been. That being said, I don't do the search very often. I use macros. So, you know, and most of the stuff's in there. If not, I do fucking bullshit ass Jeeves. But, okay, so let me ask you a question. So does that mean that you are really good at just knowing line items, the selector codes? And
here's what people will find. What people will find when typing it in, to me, obviously, typing it in, not only what you ingrain some of the muscle memory stuff too, it forces you to pay attention to the actual contents of the code. When you start doing that, you start seeing things like, oh, every time it's kind of this, but it's bigger than usual, I can just add this symbol to it.
right.
Or it's a better quality, I could do this. Or it has a particular charge in it that sometimes I don't want, so I could just add it in. Or, hey, every time there's this RS stuff, it's the line item description for detach and reset. And I know that sounds really trivial.
That's true.
Whatever, but
I don't even know that.
if you start doing that, you will literally be able to. There's a lot of people that I work with or whatever. We will. Now this sounds pompous. I don't mean it like this.
Let's do it. Let's hear it.
But you wind up being able to guess line item codes sometimes because there's always this one base. It's like learning a different language. If you learn like a Latin language where you learn a base word, then you just conjugate it. So that one word you learned is actually like 6. Well, if you just look at like the base codes, there's like maybe 45 that you use all the time. And out of those 45, it's kind of an arbitrary number, but probably something like that. It's not 100.
Right.
It's like the 45 ones you use all the time. And out of those 45, learning those little like the greater than and the less than or the minus or an S or an RS or an N, out of those 45, if you could do each one of those, then you inherently now you know like closer to 200 codes because I just know this base there. So that's what that is something that helped me. That is something that with my students, I see that they get faster that way better because, you know, I mean, RFG line items, it's the same. Once you do it for a while, it is just like you're typing, you know. I'm sure anybody that's been formally trained or just knows how to type nowadays, which should be most people.
Right.
You're not sitting there thinking, okay, to spell the word right, I need to hit RIGHT. You just think, I need to say this right, and then you just do it. So whenever I'm looking at my scope notes and I'm writing an estimate, I'm just reading the page and I'm just typing. It's almost like a stenography kind of thing. The fastest way for me to get there, for me to teach somebody to get there, is forcing them to read and then Xing out and then typing the stuff in.
I lost mine. I don't even know anymore. That's that's a good point. I think you know what mine is, and I'm going to say that this is probably an unpopular answer because who wants to do this? For me, the one thing, no matter what, I feel like no matter whether you do it by the codes, whether you do it by macros, whatever blows your hair back, the one thing that it will take no matter what to get faster at Xactimate is just going to be the repetitive, the muscle memory, the repetitive nature of doing that, which I think what a lot of people don't do is they figure, okay, well, how am I supposed to get good at Xactimate when I'm not faster at Xactimate? How am I supposed to use Xactimate when I'm not getting any work? When I'm still looking for work. And to that, I say, listen, just do your house, sketch your house out, put your house in Xactimate. If you got a 750 square foot apartment, put that 750 apartment in there, maybe putz around, do an uncle. And I know that as I'm saying this, people are like, yeah, I'm not fucking doing that. Do it. Just do it over and over and over again. And it's mind numbing, and it's going to feel like a waste of time, and you don't want to bother other people. And why would you want to do your same house for the 5th time? You already did it, but I can bet you that you're not fast at it. You're not. Do it again till you're freaking quick with that square break, till you could just throw floor plans together like nobody's business. And if you're doing like you do, if you're doing those selector codes, you're getting faster at putting those selector codes in. You're getting faster at working the tab button, moving around, jumping through different parts of Xactimate. It's that muscle memory, and it's going to be boring. You're going to want to rip your freaking eyeballs out. But just with the money that you're going to make, because now you're faster at Xactimate, just take like an extra couple days off at the end of the year when you go on that Disney vacation, because you're going to make that money easily. Even if you can just figure out at the latter half of a year how to do just one extra day or one extra claim a day, and you're only working 5 days a week. If that claim, even at the low end, is going to be, $250, that's $1,250 for the freaking week, right? So what is that? Half the year, you're looking at just under $40,000.
That's it.
You can't spend a week just doing your apartment. Come on, dog.
And when you think you're fast, unplug the mouse.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. All right, Blayne. So we're done here, man. But I wanna put you on the spot. I hate putting people on the spot, but I want to put you on the spot now. So you're good at the codes, man. Let me ask you. I'm gonna throw a line item at you.
Okay.
So, all right. I'll lob one at you. All right. Okay. I'll give you a lob. Carpet.
Average grade carpet. FCCAV.
Okay. All right. What about 2 coats of plaster over metal lath?
PLA. 2 coats of plaster over metal lath. Probably just P2.
I think you're right. I didn't even know the answer to that.
P2, maybe SP2. So
I think it's P2. It's P2. Yeah, you got it. I won't go any harder than that because I don't want you to start throwing this back at me. I can give you drywall. I can give you paint.
Oh yeah. Oh no. I mean, that's the thing though. Yeah, there's only so many things that can happen in the house most of the time when you're talking about light, wind, and hail, which is what most of us do most of the time. So
yeah.
Well, we could do that again later, though.
Yeah, man. All right, Blayne, it was awesome having you guys. If you enjoyed this podcast, definitely check us out. Check out the YouTube channel, Adjuster University. And if you're not already a member, get your shit together and go over to Facebook, find the Claims Adjuster Success Network, become a member, get in there, join the discussion. Blayne, awesome having you on, brother.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Wait, real quick. I was about to just leave you out there in the dust. Blayne, I don't know if you want to share anything, but if anybody wants to get a hold of you and ask you some questions, pick your brain a little bit, how can they get a hold of you? Is there any way?
Just Facebook's probably the best. I haven't dived off to the gram or the Twitters or anything yet. So
all right, sounds good. Well then, guys, jump in the Facebook group, tag Blayne. That's BLAYNE. Right? YNE. And go tag him in there. All right, guys. I'll catch you on the next episode.